Good evening. Welcome to the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for public hearing on November 13th, 2017. First order of business, if you have a cell phone on, please place it on vibrate or turn it off in order to conduct business. Second, if you're going to speak in favor or against or for another petitioner, please approach the podium and sign your name in and present your name and address. Moving forward with new business, I'm going to take them out of order tonight quickly. Moving to ZB 2017-45 for a special permit and variance, the Daily Group LLC, 205 Barica Street. The applicant is seeking a special permit and variance approval for the construction of a 3 single-family dwelling structure at 205 Barica Street. The subject property is located in the suburban multifamily zoning district and requires special permit approval under section 12.1C and a variance approval under section 5.1 for front yard setback and any other relief required of the zoning ordinance. That being said, I do have an email communications from Cheryl Belly from Daily Contracting requesting a continuance to December 11th, 2017. Is there anything else?
No, we just want to continue to do some due diligence, and then we'll come back to the city once we have that information.
Very well. With that being said, I'd like to move with a motion for a continuance for ZB 2017-45.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue ZB 2017-45 special permit and variance for 205 Barica Street, continued to December 11th, 2017.
May I have a second?
Second the motion.
May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Perrin,
Approve continuance to December 11th, 2017.
Member Peck,
Approve continuance.
Member Callahan,
Approved continuance to December 11th, 2017.
Member McCarthy,
Approve continuance to December 11th.
Member Briere,
Approve continuance.
Member Jamina,
Approve on continuance.
Thank you, sir. As you can see, I've been approved. If there's anything you need from DPD, they're always available for you.
We'll be back in touch. Thank you.
Have a good night. Moving on to the next order of business under new business, ZB 2017-44 for a variance, Vanessa Masterson at 1180 Middlesex Street. The applicant is proposing to subdivide a 22,433 square foot lot. It requires a variance for minimum lot area per dwelling under section 5.1 and off-street setback relief under section 6.1.10 and any other relief required of the Lowell zoning ordinance. The subject property is the traditional two-family zoning district. Good evening.
Good
Tell us a
evening.
little bit about your petition.
I'm sorry?
Good evening. You could tell us a little bit about your petition.
Yes, so essentially what we're seeking is currently the property is located at 1180 Middlesex Street, as you stated. Currently, it has 2 separate properties on a half-acre lot. Our proposed plan is to subdivide the property into 2 lots. One lot, Lot A, will house the single-family dwelling that is currently on the property, and Lot B is currently a 4-family dwelling lot. Both properties have been existing on the same lot and taxed as 2 separate properties. And the fact that the 2 properties are existing in the same lot are essentially causing a hardship to the owner, and as such, we're seeking that the property be subdivided so that each property sits on its own lot. And the other variance we're seeking is a variance for a 3-foot offset from the parking lot, from the driveway, excuse me, on each lot. So the proposed Lot A is a single-family dwelling unit which will have 8,500 square foot and will face the Counting Street, while the proposed Lot B is just under 14,000 square feet, which has a pre-existing non-conforming 4-family dwelling. So essentially, that is what we're seeking.
Okay. Are you in receipt of the comments from the city
I did.
dated November 7th? I just want to make sure that you are in receipt of them.
Yes, I'm in receipt of that.
You have any questions to that, to DPD, or?
I do
concerns?
not. I do not have any questions, other than the fact that we're hoping that the city would grant the variance that we're seeking.
Nothing further at this time?
Nothing further at this time.
Thank you. That being said, I'd like to open up the public hearing portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Come to the podium, sir, state your name and sign in, please. Oh, thank you.
How are you, gentlemen?
Very well.
I own a property.
Could you just state your name for the
My
record,
name is
sir?
Stephen Boisvert. I own a property at 4345 Canton Street. I've owned it for over 25 years. I have something that I wrote up, so if I can pull that up, and that way I can say something. Okay.
Certainly, sir.
Okay, as I stated, my name is Stephen Bovier. I own the property at 4345 Canton Street. I've owned this property for 25 years. I wish that we do not change the makeup of Canton Street. The big reason is that there is a lot of traffic on the street. There is a lot of, when the snow comes, it's terrible. All it's going to do is create more traffic, more cars, more of everything. People cut through the street because there's a stop sign. UMass Lowell has added a dormitory that's across the street, and it's very, very populous. The school buses drop all the kids off and are parking very close to this property, and they drop all their glass drops in the city, and there's no way to get around. Somebody wants, I don't know if she owns the property or not, but this house is a corner lot on the end, and it was a carriage house, probably, and they turned it into a home, that single-family dwelling. It's very tight and compact in that area, and I absolutely do not want that to happen. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? That portion of the public hearing now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of,
Rory Masterson. I helped the owner design the Lot A and Lot B. So the owner's not adding any additional bedrooms or anything like that. He's just taking the two existing structures and identifying one on Lot A and one on Lot B. There's no additional construction planned like that to build onto these units. So nothing's going to change in terms to traffic flow pertaining to these two structures. So I just don't understand how a conclusion could be made that it would increase additional traffic on that street. Nothing is changing to the structures.
thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing now is closed. We're going to open it up to the board for comments and questions. Moving forward, Mark?
Would it be appropriate for me to address the abutter?
Certainly.
I'm very sensitive to the concerns of you, sir, as an abutter. But
Sir,
quite
if you could-
honestly,
Excuse me, sir, if you could come back to the podium, please.
I didn't understand the hardship that it would impose upon you.
Well, the property was a single-family dwelling, and it sat on the corner of Middlesex Street was the front entrance, and then Canton Street is the side entrance. And the house that they want to separate was a carriage house. It was a place where they stored carriages. And then they turned it into a home. Now they want to make it two different residences. And now that that single-family home could be turned into a two-family or a multi-dwelling, or they could take this and make it something bigger. I just don't want them to change the makeup of that.
There were two residences there currently, correct?
Correct. But they were under one envelope. Is that what they were saying?
Yes, I just don't understand how separating these parcels would impose
Well,
upon
he's
you or
going
the
to,
other
if you
neighbors.
take one and sell it off, then the other one becomes another parcel to be sold off if he wishes to. Is that correct? Since there'll be two separate parcels. Now they'll take that carriage house and they could make a two-family dwelling out of it, or try to, in the future. I wanted to keep it all together the way it is. I'm very afraid that that whole parcel would be turned into a apartment complex like they have across the street from it. They took a single-family dwelling, which was a large parcel of land, and they made a multi-dwelling unit out of it. And we didn't have any say in it.
So your concern
The
is for
traffic
a
is
potential future use of the land,
Yes.
not what's being proposed this evening?
Yes, this is the start.
Okay.
Very much the start. And when there's snow removal, we can't get by. Even just moving snow and getting by, and getting up and down the street, and the kids and the traffic, and how people zoom up and down the street like it was nothing, because they want to avoid the Middlesex Street stop sign. And it's a two-family home. It's a place where families live. This is what I'm concerned about, very much so. Okay? That's why I'm here tonight. Thank you very much.
Gary, one additional question to the petitioner.
Certainly.
You indicate a hardship to the owner of the parcel.
Correct.
Would you briefly explain what that hardship is?
Well, because right now, one of the properties is a single family and the other one is a 4 units. It's very difficult to sell a 5 units property in one lot. I mean, if he wants to sell in the future, it's very difficult for somebody to come in there and see that these are 5 separate units, but are separated. I mean, to answer what he indicated, what he stated in his answer is basically the fact that none of the configurations of the properties are being changed. One is already existing as a single-family unit. It's not a carriage, it's existing as a single-family unit. The other one is existing as a 4-family unit. So we're not changing the configuration of the rooms or the units in the properties, in the individual properties. We're just subdividing the lot so that it's easier for the owner, if the owner goes to sell, or if somebody wants to purchase the property, they can purchase it without concern, with regard to the fact that 2 lots are existing, and though they have been taxed individually, they are being taxed as 2 separate property, yet on the same lot. As you can see, that is obviously a hardship for anybody who's trying to purchase in the future, or even anybody who's trying to sell right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just have a couple of questions for the petitioner as well. The plot plan that was provided doesn't show how parking is dealt with. And so I'm just trying to understand how many parking spaces are existing that will be allotted to the 4-family once this subdivision takes place, which seems to be right down the middle of the driveway.
Driveway, right.
So that's missing from this plan here, unless there's another plan that shows the parking that I don't have?
No, we do not. I don't believe the plan that was submitted actually addresses the number of parkings. But as it is right now, what the owner is proposing is to create a driveway in the back so that the lot right now, where the property line is going to sit, he's proposing, I mean, it's not part of the plan that we're looking for at this point, but his plan is to create a driveway in the back. But right now, the 4 unit does have a section that can be, that 4 cars can be parked on it. I know the plan that you have does not show it, but, so there's parking right off of Kenton Street. There's two-car parking right off of Canton Street, and then there's 2 parking on Middlesex Street. Although the plan you have does not show it, there is 4 parking actually existing right now on the section where the multifamily sits.
So the multifamilies are 4
4
unit,
units, correct.
right? And I think, Patrick, that would require, how many parking spaces? Is it,
So it's 2 per unit
Right.
typically, but, you know, this is existing, they're not proposing any more units, so I mean, the fact that they don't provide 8 spaces would be considered a pre-existing non-conforming.
well, I agree, but I think the other unit, the single-family unit, has more parking spaces than 2.
Correct.
How many parking spaces are allotted for that unit, that building, on the current conditions?
On the current conditions, it has about, it's had about 6 parkings. I mean,
And
is
the
it-
other, well,
That's not there. 2 or 3.
Well, the owner is proposing in the future to create a driveway in the back, but right now, as it is, there's 2 or 3 on the single-family units.
right. So, the other problem that I see here is that you've got enough land for 4,000 square feet per unit to have 5 units. But the way you're choosing to subdivide the lot, you're providing enough land for the new lot that would be for the single-family house to be built as a 2-unit structure with 4,000 square feet dedicated per unit. And I believe this, Patrick, is a multi-family
Yes.
zone.
It's in the TTF, so 2-family maximum. Could be
So they,
allowed.
by right, could, if we approve this tonight,
No, because they don't have the minimum frontage. For a 2-family in the TTF, you need 80 feet.
aha, it's close.
It's close, but
It's off by just a little.
Correct, just under 2,000.
But you're choosing not to provide more land to the multifamily structure by the way you've configured the lot line.
Right.
So if the lot line were skewed in the back to provide 16,000 square feet to the front property, you would have more green space and you would have the ability to have more parking. And I think it'd be wonderful to meet the requirement of zoning for parking for the 4-unit structure, if it's under a different ownership especially. And I think that's your game plan, is to potentially look for a buyer.
Correct.
Right.
Sometime in the future, not anything right now.
So I'm disappointed that we are looking at a scenario where the 4-family unit is underparked and is undersited as far as the land that goes with it. And I don't see the reason why that was done, because you certainly could have the single-family structure, which you intend to continue as a single-family structure,
Correct.
could have a lot that could be down to 5,000 square feet, and you could put 3,000 square feet of that backyard space, I think, Patrick, correct?
yes, my only concern with that is that we have a lot width requirement. So the lot width in this district, TTF, shall have not less than 80% of the required frontage at all points of the lot. So if it did create this somewhat triangle-shaped lot, you might not meet that requirement.
I'm just trying to get to a scenario where we obviously have snow storage and
Right.
parking that's adequate for the 4-unit structure. And I see that as being not met today by the plan in front of us. It doesn't even adequately show parking. I think there's an inadequate plan in front of me to determine how your plan is to provide parking. And I think that, in my estimation, you should be at least showing that, so that we can easily see that there's a plan in place to have 8 spaces on the 4-unit dwelling.
Okay. So you'd like us to revise the plan to show 8 spaces on the multi-units
Personally, I think that that would be
requirement?
a requirement that I would like to see, and then see how it meets zoning, Patrick, as far as width of driveways, because we could run into a situation where we have 3 driveways potentially for that lot. Right, and right now we have 2. All right. And then I think going forward as a condition, I would like to, even though it's stated that it's going to be a single family, I'd like to, just to assure the neighbor that that single family dwelling would remain as a single family dwelling as a condition of our approval tonight, if we
Yeah, we
were to
have no
go forward.
problem with that.
Right. In any event, those are my 2 things that I'm kind of worried about here on this lot. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share the same sentiments to Dennis about the parking. It doesn't, there's nothing on the plans to show how parking is, and you have a 4-family unit building that's requires, under, at least presently under the zoning, 8 spaces for each unit, 2 spaces per unit, 8 spaces. So I too would like to see some sort of plans as far as the parking for both lots on that. Couple questions I do have about the nature of the buildings, and how many are the tenants presently in each of the building, each of the units? Or?
Yes.
Okay, are they totally filled up, or is it?
No, right now there's 3 tenants in the multi-units, and then there's 1 tenant on the single family.
Okay. All right, those are just kind of curious as to what the, and is the owner living in one of the units right now, or is
No.
he's not? Okay, so this is kind of, this is for investment purposes, I guess. So, I agree with Dennis's points that I think we should make conditions on. We definitely should see a revised plan showing the parking, and if your client is making the representation that the single-family dwelling will remain a single-family dwelling, I would certainly agree with that as a condition as well. So that's all I have. Thank you. I wish you the best of luck. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Ben?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns, this plan, it was sent to the, I imagine, the traffic department, along with fire and police. Did they have any concerns with traffic or safety concerns, anything like that?
We didn't receive anything from those departments you mentioned, so we take that as no comments.
Well, hopefully that alleviates some of the stress that the neighbor has. There's some merit to having this lot subdivided, and I could see it too as well. So, I think this petition, I'll probably vote in favor. So those are all the comments I have.
Thank you, Ben. Philip?
Good evening. Good evening. I just have a question for, yes, thank you, sir. You say you have an issue with parking, traffic, right?
Yes.
Then you mentioned about UMass apartment someplace around?
Yes, they took over GE. There used to be the next street over behind, they put in I want to say the right thing, residence housing for UMass Lowell. They park in the backside, but they also have front parking. And the more they've built that up there, and the more, like I said, with the buses and everything else, and people, there's a sign, a stop sign. So Canton Street is here, there's another street, and then there's a stop sign. And that stop sign goes off to UMass Lowell. Okay, and the people get stuck at that stop sign all the time, and they come up and down the street. And when the snow is there, It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. When I had my children out there when they were younger, I just dreaded for them to be outside. But this is, another thing is when they remove snow from these properties, they push them out into the street, and sometimes they push them across the street, and they pile up the snow, and like, that place has no parking at all. Like you were saying before, it has no parking. And it's a multifamily house that used to be a single-family home, and there was a carriage house, and they took the carriage house and they made it into a single-family home. And then they took that single-family home and made it into a multifamily dwelling. So they want to split that in half, but yet it's all still should have been one home. But they have split it up, and it's okay from other people. That's the way it is. But now you have, I can see in the future, I can almost guarantee you what's going to happen, is that they're going to take that and then split it up.
Sir,
and
if
then it's going to be
we could
hard.
stay in the present.
It's going to be tough.
we could
It's
stay
going to
in
be
the
tough
present.
for everybody on that street to
I
park,
understand your
to
concern.
move up and down, and
Sir,
to get around.
if I may speak.
Yes.
I understand your concern, but if we could stay in the present with the
Sorry.
current petition, it's a lot,
Okay.
it's a lot easier for.
I know,
the
I'm
petition to-
sorry.
No,
I
don't need to
may have
apologize, I
gotten
just try
a
to,
little astray on that.
yeah, we just want to stay in the present with the
Okay.
current petition at this site. The University of Massachusetts at Lowell, their concerns, or your concerns with them, or your concerns with them, we want to stay with the petition.
It's the way it is. It's a blessing, and,
I just,
Yeah.
just in fairness for the petition and to the board, we just want to
Okay,
stay within the realm of the petition.
that was my concern.
Thank you.
There's a lot of parking problems in that area.
Yeah, because actually there's a development right across the street.
Yes. And they haven't even opened up yet.
Yeah. So are you concerned with the development across the street, or it doesn't matter?
They're on the other side of Middlesex Street, and I don't think they'll be able to park on Middlesex Street. That's the whole thing. I haven't seen cars parked there, so I don't know if that's allowed even, because of the size of the street and how much congestion is there.
Okay, just have a question for. You basically are trying to get a separation just to probably sell the house, right?
Just to alleviate the hardship, the
Yeah,
current
the
hardship. I mean, we're not in the market right now trying to sell or, planning on selling in a couple of years or anything like that. It's just to alleviate the current hardship of, two existing properties taxed separately, but still existing on the same lot.
Understand, yeah. So about, if that's the case, do you think the owner is gonna do any development before he sells it? Or it's just after? Because usually before people sell the house, they wanna do some construction on it. So I hope,
Any construction that would change the configuration as it is right now?
yeah.
You mean like from a single family,
Yeah.
add more rooms or anything like that? I don't believe that is the case, no. All we're seeking right now is just to keep it
Just
the way it's
separate it.
existing. Yeah, just to separate it, that's it.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns from the members of the board? Dennis? Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just kind of studying this future parking, adding the extra spaces on this lot for the 4-unit structure. One thing that I would like not to see is more cars backing out onto Middlesex Street. You currently have 2 cars right now parked, I think, in that driveway by the main entrance to the structure.
Correct.
I don't know what the dimension is for the existing driveway that comes partway into the driveway, into the side yard. But Patrick, if it's possible for that to be double parked, double stacked, I think that would ideally give us the best green space and limit the amount of cars backing out into Canton Street. So it'd have maybe 6 cars, each 3 double stacked sets on Canton Street. That would allow, I think, a good scenario for parking to satisfy the 4-unit structure. if possible. I don't know what your plan is, because we don't really have one, and I don't know if it works dimensionally, because we don't have the dimensions.
Yeah, and also for zoning, we actually can only allow stacked parking in a single or two-family dwelling. So if this is a four-family,
So this is going to be a little more engineering than I think we know. So if that's the case, in order to meet zoning, we'd be going for another variance for parking.
right, I mean, they're not going for a variance for parking?
No, because we don't know what the parking is right now, and you don't satisfy parking per zoning with the plan in front of us.
Right. Hence, we're looking for the variance.
I kind of wish we could do a continuance until we get a plan for parking to approve.
Well, I mean, we
I think
can
that's
certainly,
probably the direction I'd like to see us going, because there's too many variables here with whether or not they can even meet zoning, and how they would meet zoning, and how it would impact Middlesex Street and Kenton Street, and how dimensionally it would work as far as green area on the lot. I don't see a plan in front of us, you didn't present it, so
we can certainly, you know, have a continuance, and I will get a revised plan to show the parking,
that,
you
that,
know.
that I think unfortunately
Any kind
is
of,
kind of a missing link here with the submission that we have in front of us, at least from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yes.
John?
Yep, I probably would suggest a continuance as well, too. I really would like to see how the parking is going to lay out on this. And Patrick, if we were to approve the parceling of the land, wouldn't they have to come back afterwards anyways for the parking once it's done? If we didn't know, because it's pre-existing. Okay, but I mean, I'd still like to see it anyways, just for just so peace of mind, I guess it is. So if
we can make it a condition.
that was one of the things we were talking about, possibly making it a condition, but without seeing it on the plans, I'd probably feel a little more comfortable when we get plans showing what the parking is. But I mean, I'll leave it to the rest of my fellow board members, but that's my thinking. So thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Any other members of the board, comments or concerns at this time? So you've heard the wish of the board, concerns with the parking and how to have an appropriate parking plan. We are looking at two separate conditions at this point.
Okay.
Two members of the board have made it known to you that a continuance is probably in your best effort to get that parking plan in so that you don't have to come back for a parking variance. Do you want to take a minute or two to speak to your client, or?
No, I'm in agreement for a continuance, you know, in order to provide the board with the plan showing the parking. That way they can better understand that, you know.
I think that's well said here. And that being said, Patrick, when is our next meeting? Is it the 27th? 27th? Will you be prepared for the 27th? November 27th is our next meeting.
Okay,
And then thereafter would be, I believe, December 11th.
I may be able to make it by the 27th, but can I get back to him and let him know? If the 27th does not work, we could make the December 11th, if that is.
So I think to be prudent, we should go with December 11th
Yes,
because you are
that would be
requesting a
fine.
continuance.
That
We
would
need
give
to-
me enough time to at least
to
get the
memorialize
engineers
that in
to draw
hearing.
the plans. Okay.
So that being said, petitioner has requested a continuance to December 11th. May I seek a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, on CB 2017-44, petition for variance, 1180 Middlesex Street, to be continued to December 11th, 2017.
May I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Perrin,
Continue to December 11th, 2017.
Member Peck,
Approved continuance.
Member Callahan,
Continue to December 11th, 2017.
Member McCarthy,
Continued to December 11th.
Member Briere,
Approved continuance.
Member Jamina,
Proof continuance.
Okay, Council, you've been approved for the continuance, December 11th. If you need any further assistance, DPD is there for you.
Okay, great, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you for coming in, and we want to thank the neighbor for coming in and speaking on his needs. Moving forward to our next petition, ZB 2017-46, for a variance, Attorney James Flood on behalf of Eagle Building Property LLC at 19 and 20 Academy Drive. The applicant is seeking variance approval for a property located at 19 and 20 Academy Drive in the traditional multifamily zoning district. The project includes amending a previously approved 8-unit development to 12 one-bedroom studio apartments. The project seeks relief under section 5.1 for minimum lot area per dwelling unit and minimum floor area under section 8.1 and other relief requested. Good evening, Counselor. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. James Flood, 549 Rogers Street, Lowell, representing the petitioner Eagle Building Property LLC, the company out of Everett, Massachusetts. With me tonight are Andy Rojas and Jason Chambers from the architectural office. Also, Victor Gallego and Diego Restrepo, who are the principals who will be doing the work on the project. And I have my other assistant with me, my daughter Catherine, who will be filling in for me over the next few months while I'm taking a little time off. But so I brought Catherine with me, and I told her, Dennis, she had to tie her tie because of the comment the last time. But anyways, Eagle acquired this property from Talmadge Adams back last May, and they're looking forward to developing it with the city of Lowell. Although they've never done any work in the city, they've done a lot of work in the city of Boston in renovating old buildings and bringing them up to speed. So after purchasing the property, we sat down to see which would be the best way to go. And really, the first idea was to make this into some sort of housing for veterans, and that's where the studio idea came about. So Andy did go and meet with the veterans agent at the city of Lowell to discuss this, but unfortunately, there is no program with the city for veterans housing. The only way you could do it if you went through the federal government, and you know how much time that takes. So unfortunately, that wasn't possible, but they have agreed that they would first they would give a veteran's preference in the renting of these units, because I think that's a perfect type of development for veterans, where they have a studio apartment. You people know the neighborhood. It's close to local business, stores. It's on a bus line, downtown Lowell, Gallagher Terminal. So I think it's perfect for that. But in order to do that, we're here tonight to amend the original approval. I mean, I think everybody except for Mark and Philip were on the board when this was approved back last March. We did, at that time, had to go for a variance for land area per dwelling unit, and we're asking for that same variance again. But because of the size of these units, we're also asking a variance based on the minimum size required in a studio apartment. I think the average is 621 square feet, and what the zoning calls is for 750. But they felt, in looking at the building, trying to maintain the building, keep it up, they thought that 4 units on the floor would make more sense than trying to go up and down and separate it that way like we had before. So that's what was behind bringing this before you tonight. Like I said, they purchased it in 2017, and they're very anxious to renovate it. In addition to the requested variance, they are making some changes to the building, as you can probably see from the plans that were submitted. The building will be a green building. There will be solar panels on the roof to make it more energy efficient. They have added a handicap ramp that's shown for access to the property. They have increased the parking area from 16 spots to 24 spots. And they have added both a laundry room on the first floor and a storage spot for the occupants of the building. So, unfortunately, I was not available last Monday when they were in front of the planning board, but they did appear, requested that the special permit previously granted be amended to allow the 12 units. And I don't have the decision, but I did receive a note from Christine that it was approved, and there were 6 conditions. 1, that the landscape buffer zone area for the parking lot must meet zoning, which we don't have a problem with. A final landscape plan shall be submitted to DPD for final approval, which we don't have any problem with. The dumpster shall be screened as required by the Lowell zoning ordinance. No problem with that. The dumpster is located, as you can see in the plan, within the parking area over to the side. Final stormwater plan shall be approved by the city engineer, which was discussed initially, no problem with it. And the proposed parking spaces shall meet all dimensional requirements, no problem. And I think Andy has submitted new plans as requested on condition number 6. So it's our opinion, as I said before, that this is a perfect spot for studio apartments, especially if we can get veterans in there because of its location. And as before, because of the size and the location of this building, I think there'd be a substantial hardship if this wasn't granted. Relief can be granted without detriment to the public good or without nullifying the purposes of zoning. I'm going to turn it over to Andy. He's done the engineering. He can explain the whole project to you, and then we're here to answer any further questions you have. But I think most of you are pretty familiar with what we were doing over there.
Thank you, Counselor. Certainly.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Andy Rojas, a principal of Rojas Design. We're architects, landscape architects, and interior designers, and we've been working on this for a while. This new version is based on creating the 24 parking spaces with the appropriate handicap spot, the trash and dumpster corral enclosed. We've added accessibility to the courtyard by allowing a new ramp to be built that will give access to the first floor. And the ground, the lowest level, already has access to the courtyard level, and we're expanding its access out to the street. There's still plenty of green space. We believe it's also good for snow storage. We anticipate, every tree shown here is new except for that one. That's existing. And I think I can show you, it's easier to see, the amount of green that the project actually has. Not only is the courtyard a central feature, and that's going to be all new landscape and some new walkways, obviously the new ramp, but also this green space. It really needs to be more of a green space because of the, oh, thank you, sorry. Because of the ledge. I mean, this oval, glacial oval, is a piece of ledge. This courtyard has a big ledge component sticking out there, and so does this. But it's good for snow storage, it's good for general open space, it's actually quite visually pleasant. We think that the landscape plan will be an enhancement, and we're prepared to do the one that's requested in engineering, landscape plan, planting list, and details. That's not a problem. On the lowest level, the ground level we call it, it's at the lowest level of the courtyard, and we're creating a new door. The ones with the N and the windows with the N's are new. and to allow egress and access to this studio that's a handicap studio, a barrier-free studio. The colors really are just to show the individual units, yellow being common. There's a stair there. There's the elevator, which is of barrier-free dimension. There's a existing exit here out onto the courtyard. And then in the back, there's utilities. We're proposing a laundry area and some storage. This involves adding new windows in certain areas in order to generate the appropriate light and air for each unit. The units are, the square footage is given. Some larger ones, 663, some smaller ones, almost 500, 496. There's 4 units per floor. On the main level, as we call it, which is the one most, the front entrance being here, you would go up these steps or come in through the courtyard up the ramp. And there are 4 studios, common area, elevator stair core. There's a stair coming down from the upper level. And then management will retain this space. That space was the ceremonial pool from the school, from the Hebrew school. And we're going to use it as a management space. It will be completely redone as well. There'll have to be a floor inserted, a big concrete structure removed in order to make it viable. But that's the intention. And then on the upper level, the 3rd level, there's an egress stair down directly outside. There's the roof of the small head house with a kind of unique object, triangular object on top. We're leaving that. The common core and the 4 studios. This studio, unlike, and if you look at the elevations, it's hard to see. If you go there and look at the building, it becomes more evident. For whatever reason, at the top floor, this side of the building, these windows become extremely large. And we're going to replace them all, but they will remain in those openings. So it'll be a large window. We think that these studios will look very nice. They'll be bright. They're accessible. The barrier-free unit is in the lowest level. However, many of the units, we're making them visitable so that they're designed that people that require barrier-free access can visit their neighbor and not just have to stay in their unit. So while they're not completely accessible, these other units, they're visitable by people. So we're taking that into consideration. We think it's important. The owners are committed. This is one of their program requirements when they hired us was that it be a green building. While we're not seeking LEED designation, we are making big efforts to the products, the way things are done, the landscape environment, the way the landscape is treated with the type of plants, all of that is taking into a more sustainable outlook for the building than has ever been given. We expect to do a solar array. We currently have, this is just a diagram, we currently have a solar consultant working with us who will do an actual layout and, figure out the technical specs of it. But we're committed, the owners are, and so are we, to doing all of this and trying to generate as much energy for ourselves in this building as we can. The building, if you know it, it's a fairly rectilinear, brutalist kind of structure. It's kind of part of its charm. It's unique that way. We're trying to live with that and not alter that or try to fake it. We think that it can be made rather handsome with some small you know, entry awnings and other features, particularly on the outside. The landscape can really help a lot if we do a lot there. But you can see, the N again shows you the new windows and the new doors. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anything else, Counsel?
I had one thing I forgot to mention initially, is that if this board does vote to approve it, it would also include the conditions that were included in the decision that goes back to March, because there was administrative review, you know, we make parking available to the synagogue and stuff like that. So that's not a problem, so I just want to make sure that those would be included too.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, Counselor, because I'm just looking at the memorandum for comments on October 26th, which did include those conditions by the planning board. There's several other comments, most of which you spoke to. So that being said, that's all I have right now. Do you have any further comments, or anyone from any of your colleagues have anything they want to add at this point? No? Great. That being said, I'd like to move forward with the public hearing portion. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Opposition? In opposition. That portion of the public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open it up to the board for questions. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wonderful looking project, boy oh boy. I love the fact that you're trying to use solar panels and make it more handicap accessible with the handicap ramp and the unit itself that's handicap accessible. I think the parking layout looks great. I don't remember there being as much space in the plan that we saw back in February, but it looks good. I have some questions on the drawings, if I could just ask, and I just want to make sure that we're understanding what we're going to end up with here. The second stair, egress is directly out,
That's existing.
but it exits directly out on the site plan onto a grass area?
No, that stair, the small stair that exits to the side, is that what we're
It's
talking?
actually to the east, I think.
You want a copy of the plan? You probably have a small copy right here. Right here, if you want it, Andy.
My thinking is that we probably need to maintain a sidewalk for that second means of egress that leads to a public way. And so I think that's just missing on the site plan.
Oh, yes, this pavement in front of this stair entry, is that what we're talking about?
The other one.
It needs.
Nope, nope,
Oh, here?
nope. All the way back, all the way to the right. No, there's a stair right there, yes.
Oh, that egress stair existingly empties out onto a small grass side yard, or rear yard.
So I think that we'd want to maintain that in the winter for egress in the event of an issue in a snowstorm. And so I think seeing that as a paved surface that leads to a public way would be important.
Okay, I think we can figure that out. That's doable.
Great, great. And then I noticed the stair by the management piece.
Yeah, the small egress stair over here.
Well, I think that is the second means of egress, or is it? Is there a second means of egress from the upper floors?
No, that's the second egress stair.
So, right, that's the second means of egress from the upper floor, right. And it doesn't show on the plan to have adequate treads and risers. So that stair doesn't match the back stair. The back stair has, I think, 18 or 16 risers, and this one only has 11. And so my question is there enough room for adequate tread? I'm assuming it exists, right?
It's existing. Both stairs are existing.
I think you just need to correct the plan.
In their current size and width and
Why-
so on.
I'd like you to just correct the plan because I think you're not showing the correct number of treads and risers on the stair.
Maybe so. These are
Yeah.
conceptual drawings, obviously.
Yep. Great. And so, just to be clear, we're providing one handicap accessible unit
One out
Yep.
of 12.
out of 12. but we could increase that if need be to a larger number. I think the unit right above is a similar size, yeah. Great.
If you know, somebody
Yep.
came forward and needed it, obviously there would have to be changes to the kitchens and the bathrooms.
Exactly, right. But I think it's wonderful, what you're doing on this structure, and the fact that you're getting this number of units, and they're handicap accessible, and you have photovoltaic panels on the roof. It's a dream, and you get green space. Love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Dennis. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I do have a question about one of the, some of the drawings. I do have, yes, I do. Thanks. So, on the ground level unit, the ground level layout there.
Yep.
This- Okay. So on the bottom three units, I mean, all the other ones seem to be in the area of about 600 some square feet, but the bottom three units are closer to 500 square feet each. I noticed we have a laundry, you have a storage. Is a storage unit, is that for the maintenance of the building, or is that for tenants, or do you know what that, is that just a,
I think it's building management storage.
okay,
Residence storage.
okay. No, what is the sliver like right behind it there, or is that,
I think, you know, let's just say that this is a very odd space. Right? There is this, if you also notice, there's this little ramp up. It's 3 inches higher than the rest of this. And this back space is all concrete walled, and it looks like a utility space that was used for the maintenance or operation of that pool.
okay,
So using it, and there's no windows, it's buried deep in the back of this thing. It's a solid concrete floor
Okay.
and walls. It's very tough to use anything else.
yeah,
In all honesty, trying to figure out a good use for this, it seemed like a good use to do the laundry, because you could now use this space kind of to feed, you know, all the utilities for the laundry machines.
yeah.
But it's hard to use it for much else.
Okay. No, I was wondering because the fact that the three units on the bottom are about 500 square feet, kind of, you know, I'd like to see them, you know, be expanded a little more if possible, but if you can't, there's no possible way of using that space there to try to push everything back, and then maybe giving at least the two units that are 496 feet, like a little more, to match them with the other ones. I mean, if that's a,
I think if you see here.
yeah, you got the stairway there too, right? Yeah, yeah.
Right? The impact is that because it really does read like a concrete bunker.
Yeah.
Because that is almost impossible to use. We tried and tried to try to expand this way. This is also a very dense concrete wall. Unlike all the other ones, which were, the existing walls in the building in the school were mostly metal stud, you know, partitions. Down here, particularly back here, it goes to a different kind of construction. This becomes all heavy concrete, reinforced, and it just didn't seem like a viable unit or part of a unit.
Yeah.
We'll try. I mean, if you would like us to, you know, try moving this a bit this way, and giving each of these two units particularly, which are just slightly sub 500, a little more space. Let me just say, removing this is a big deal.
Okay. I can understand that. Yeah, I totally understand that. I was just like curious about that whole little space there, and see if I could give you a little more space. I'm sure if you had the space, you'd do everything you can to expand it. So, but other than that, it's done a great job with the proposed project. I really like the fact that you're seeking to do it for veterans' preferences and housing of veterans, which would be very, very important for the city. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Ben?
Sir, couple more questions for you before you leave. Sorry about that. I'll make it brief. Great presentation. I really appreciate it. I think this reuse or repurpose of this building makes a lot of sense. And I love the green initiative and the initiative to really try to house, people in need like veterans. Were you in receipt or get a copy of the report, the memo sent by the engineer department about a few comments they had?
Yes, we have, and we can address all of those comments.
It's like a dozen or so comments.
I think one of them,
He knows the history of that wall, if you want to know what it is, Sean. He's from the synagogue, so he can tell you what it was. He said it's a big wall, it's impossible to move.
I'm always good for a good history story, so maybe later on at the old court or something, I don't know.
one of their comments, or I think the one that appeared to be kind of the most, I mean, the rest of them are all comments that will be dealt with as the design project moves forward in the technical package. We'll deal with all the rest of this stuff. But is this here. Now, if you look at it, the property line that was drawn between the synagogue and this property kind of puts this ramp and exit, and there's a part of a wall here, and I think the engineer was right in bringing it up and saying, are you really going to leave it like that, or what are you doing? We're in negotiations with the synagogue. They're friendly with us. They're not, objecting to this at all. But we're in negotiations with them for us to be able to rebuild this area that is slightly on their property line to allow for a fully accessible ramp that's designed to Mass Access Board standards, and that would benefit them as much as would benefit this property. So that was probably, when I read those notes, that was probably the biggest one that jumped out at me, that I said, we got to deal with this, and we're prepared to deal with it. I think we will, I don't see an issue with it.
Okay. Overall, I think this is a good project, and, I wish you the best of luck, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you, Van. Philip?
Don't run.
No, probably not for you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the only question I have for you is that have you looked into does the new construction have any impediment of the traffic flow? Say during the construction or after the construction, have you looked into into traffic?
But you want to answer? Sure.
Yeah. The beauty, one of the great things about this property is kind of like it's a dead end. And that really helps construction-wise, because first of all, they can use this parking lot as a staging area, so they don't have to bother anybody on the street. They can get all their trucks in here and stage out here, build this last, and use it all through the construction of this thing. It's almost like if you put up a construction fence right there, you have a work site, it's not bothering anybody, and nobody has to go through it. So just by the luck of the draw, I think that we've got a very reasonable construction site for staging and for the logistics of construction.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I wish you luck.
Thank you, Philip. Any other members of the board have any?
Mark, you started with Dennis, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Bria, I apologize. Do you have any comments or questions?
I have no comments, Mr. Chairman. I look upon this project very, very favorably.
Thank you very much. I apologize with my out of order. That being said, any other members of the board have any comments or concerns or questions at this time?
Do you have any conditions, or just the previous conditions for variance approval?
Yes, so moving forward, council, we have just the previous conditions of the planning board,
The new conditions of the planning board.
the new conditions of the planning
And the
board.
previous ones, which I think really came from you people, because I think we came to the Board of Appeals first.
Correct.
And then went to the planning board, so they were really your conditions. We have
Correct.
no problems with those whatsoever.
Not to read them in, just say the previous
No,
conditions.
just, Dennis, you have any concerns or conditions related to those exit walls? Okay. That being said, may I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion on ZB 2017-46 for variance for 19 and 20 Academy Drive. Applicant is Eagle Building Property LLC. Variance for approval the project of amending the previously approved 8-unit development to 12 one-bedroom studio apartments. Project seeks relief under sections 5.1 for minimum lot area per dwelling unit and minimum floor area under section 8.1 and other relief required with the conditions of the previous conditions from variance approval by this board on February 27th, and the conditions of the planning board on whatever their last hearing on.
Well, they incorporated yours, oh, last Monday, which would have been the, what, the 6th?
November 6th, okay.
November 6th.
Okay. Well, and we're covering all our bases. Come on, you know, Mr. Flood, us attorneys, we got to cover all our bases. But the previous variance approval conditions from the planning board and from our decisions back on February 27th. So.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second motion?
May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Perrin,
Approve with conditions.
Member Peck,
Approve the conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve with condition.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Briere,
Approve the conditions.
Member Jamina.
Approve the condition.
Thank you very much.
Council, you've been approved with conditions. Gentlemen, wish you the best of luck with your project over there. Good luck, Mr. Flood. How are you? Okay, moving forward on to other business. We have elections for the clerk. Any nominations at this time?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a nomination of Sean Callahan for clerk.
Any other nominations? None being spoken, can I have a second for clerk for Mr. Sean Callahan?
I'd like to second Sean's nomination.
Thank you. That being said, may I have a motion?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the nomination of elect Sean Callahan as clerk of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Member Perrin,
Approve the election of Sean Callahan for clerk of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals.
Member Peck,
Approve Sean Callahan for clerk.
Member Callahan,
Approve Sean Callahan for clerk of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals.
Member McCarthy,
Approve Sean Callahan for clerk.
Member Briere,
Approval.
Member Jamina.
Approve.
Thank you. That being said, congratulations, Mr. Callahan. You've been elected by your colleagues to the clerk of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate your support, and I'm looking forward to serving as clerk. And thank you.
Very well. Thank you. Might get yourself some pen and paper. Very well done. I appreciate your time and all the board's effort. Any other comments or concerns of any of the board members? That being said, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second?
Second that motion.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.